Welcome to one of the jewels of the city of Wadsworth, the Wadsworth Public Library. We have a special program today, and to help us with that, we have the director of the library, Dan Slife. Dan was right over here to the left, and Michelle Reese, who is on the board of the Wadsworth Public Library, right, Michelle?
Yes.
And Doug Beeman, who is a vice president of the foundation. That's the money people, and he's perfectly well suited for that because he's also the treasurer of the City of Wadsworth Schools. And Dave Bartiromo, who is the chairman of the levy committee. I guess we have a different name for it, but I'm going to let him talk about that. So today, let's find out who people are, and let's start right here with Dan. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You came to us, what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Nearly 3 years ago to the
3 years
day,
ago. Where'd you
October
come from,
7th.
Dan?
I was originally from Lakewood, Ohio, where I was born and raised. I worked at the library there for a few years before going to Huron, Ohio, where I was the director of the Huron Public Library for just under 3 years there.
And then you came to Wadsworth.
Correct.
And we've been so pleased to have you here because you've been working so diligently with all of the kinds of things that we want for our city, and that is a top-notch library. And we're so pleased with that. Michelle Reese, tell us a little bit about yourself. Oh, wait, before Michelle starts, would you tell us married, family, what?
I live with my wife, Natalie,
Natalie.
of 5 years, and my 2 children here in Wadsworth.
Okay.
That we
And
have
how old are the kids?
My son, Otto, is just under 4 years old, and my daughter is nearly 2.
Nearly 2. You got the right names, Otto and?
Eliza.
Eliza, okay. We want to make sure we get those right because they'll be looking for those names when they see the program. Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I've been on the Board of Trustees for the library for about 2 years now. My husband and I have lived in Wadsworth since 2006 with a small break in 2010 for me to attend law school. I live here with my husband Michael, and we have 2 children. Tristan is 9 and Ava is 7, and they are students at Valley View Elementary.
And what about your law practice? Where's that?
I work at Day Ketterer. It's a law firm located downtown Canton.
In downtown Canton. And she spends a lot of time at the library because the library board actually runs the library pretty well, does it not, in terms of the programs that we have and the money that we spend and all those other kinds of things.
Yes.
Okay, that's Doug, how about you? Tell us, everyone should know Doug. He's been around for 1,000 years.
Yeah, pretty close. Almost as long as Caesar, but maybe not quite that long.
Not quite that long.
I am a lifelong resident of Wadsworth, married to my high school sweetheart, Cindy. She's a lifelong resident of Wadsworth as
Tell
well.
us Cindy's maiden name.
Cindy Galford.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we've been here for just about forever. 3 children in the Wadsworth schools. 1 at the middle school, 2 at the high school. Got 1 graduating this year, so that's something new for us. My involvement with the library, I've been on the foundation board. This is actually my 3rd term now. Probably served as either vice president or president during probably 50% of my years that I've been on the foundation board. So.
Now, you don't get any money from the foundation board or anything like that?
Nope, community service, just wanting to give back to our great library. My children have enjoyed the library since the time they were very little. When my wife used to take them when she didn't work, she'd go to the library all the time and just want to give back to the wonderful asset that we have.
What do you
in this
do for a
community.
living then?
I am the treasurer of the Wadsworth City Schools in my 13th year
13th
serving
year.
as the treasurer.
And you've been giving a lot of rewards and awards for that, have you not?
We've had our share of success in the treasurer's office and throughout Wadsworth City Schools, so I'm very proud of that as well. Thank you, Caesar.
Dave, how
Yes,
about
sir.
you?
Well, I've been here for about 15 years, moved here in 2002. I'm a New Jersey native.
We won't hold that against
Yeah,
you.
please don't, please. I get enough ribbing as it is. I am married to my wife, Angela. We have 2 kids, Anthony, who is 13, and Allison, who is 9. And I am the chair of the levy committee, which is the supporters of the Wadsworth Public Library. And we're just here to discuss why this is a good idea and why we should get this levy passed.
Right. As a matter of fact, why don't we just start with that? Tell us about the levy committee, how it became organized, how you became the chair of it, and who some of the members are, and so forth.
Well, we started this a couple months ago. Daniel approached me about becoming the chair for this committee. I am the vice president of the Friends of the Wadsworth Library as well, and he thought it would be good for me to lead this group. So we got some people who were on the committee the last time we had a levy on the ballot, got everybody together, and we just started working a couple months ago, and we've been pushing through and And I'm working hard to try and educate everybody and get the word out that it's important and that we want to keep the library funded and continue to reap the benefits of all the great things the library does for us.
Who are some of the other members on the program or the committee?
Kevin Campbell is on. Jim Lawrence is on the committee as well. Amy Lyon Galvin is on the committee as well. So there's a lot of us who have joined together to work hard to get this going.
Just a little bit of a memory jogger. Did you forget anybody?
Caesar Carrinio, maybe? Is he on the board? Is he on the committee? Yeah, Chris Sieber is on the committee.
Wonderful committee. As a matter of fact, I'm going to embarrass Dave now. One of the things that I really like is the committee that moves very fast, very efficiently, and so forth. And Dave, maybe it's because it's your New Jersey influence, but boy, you certainly do that, and you do a beautiful job of it. Dan, tell us why we need to have the money and a little bit of background, where it comes from.
Sure. So the impetus for this levy, this is a renewal of a levy that was originally passed back in 2012.
2012.
Right, and leading up to that,
the word renewal, hit on that.
Yeah, that's
what about
that's
the
an
renewal
important part. It's not a new tax.
No new tax.
Not a tax increase.
No new tax increase.
Correct.
Nothing more is going to be given. Is going to be taken from the people's pocketbooks.
Correct.
Okay, I want to make sure.
This is about sustaining support. This is about sustaining a commitment that was made years ago, and the original impetus for this levy was the over 28% reduction in funding from the state of Ohio over a 10-year period between 2002 and 2012.
And that was really disastrous to the library. What did it do to the library?
Hours were reduced, programs were cut. The service was pulled back, and we were unable to do many of the things for the public that they had previously enjoyed and benefited from. Number one is access. If the library is not open, then its value to the public is reduced.
Absolutely, there's no question about it. I remember going to the library in first grade in 1936. The first time I walked through there was just one little room that had a few books in it. Now it is so much larger, so many more programs, so many more opportunities for people, and that takes money.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, it takes a lot of money. And when you get a 28% reduction, that's more than a quarter of whatever you were working with. So I suspect that you had to cut about a quarter of the programs and a quarter of the people and a quarter of everything because there was nothing.
That's right.
Give them.
In 2009, I was not with the library at that time, but the Board of Trustees, management, and staff had to make difficult decisions about what would stay and what would go. And weekday hours were reduced, weekend hours were reduced, and the scope of programming was reduced. And that programming piece, I think, is the one that is unfortunately the least known. And that largely has to do with, it begins at the youngest ages with early literacy programs.
How old are they when they first start coming to the library? You said that your kids went to the library when they were wee little. And what do they do?
Yeah, just like Daniel mentioned, lots of programs there for the youth. I know my son, who's a senior, also helped this summer.
He's a senior in high school.
Senior in high school, and he volunteered at the library this summer in the youth programs that were going on. So reading programs, summer reading programs that they offer to the schools and the kids there. Just a wealth of activities for young kids to come in there and get comfortable in the library and understand the library.
That's the time to get them.
Yeah.
That's the time to get them. It's so wonderful. Michelle, you're sitting there so quietly and you're thinking to yourself, wow, we have a library that has grown from one small room to this marvelous edifice that we have now in Wadsworth. And you're fairly new to Wadsworth. You probably thought that was there all the time, but we have had to work many years to bring it to where it is. Now then, as a board member, tell us what your first thoughts were when you came to the library and why you became involved and now are on the board.
Well, the library is just such a wonderful place to go as a family. They have so much to offer for everyone from the parents in terms of different books and videos and pretty much anything you could want for entertainment or for learning. But it's also a place where my children can go and find different books and learn a little bit more about their interests, or even just sit in the corner and play quietly with the toys that are offered. Right after we first moved back to Wadsworth in 2013, they participated in the Lego competition, and they thought that was just
In the what?
The Lego competition.
Oh, the Lego competition.
Yes,
right.
and they thought that was just the most exciting thing in the world. And even though it wasn't related to books or your typical library type of activity, it got them into the library so that they could then move on and see the different books that are offered and get involved.
My son actually talks about the Lego competition all year long between each occurrence.
That's the kind of thing that draws them to the library, and then it keeps them to the coming to the library, though.
Yes.
You drew the short straw this time, Doug.
Okay.
The short straw. You're talking to a person who doesn't know a whole lot about that taxation thing, the levy thing. I know that you have to have a levy to get money and so forth. Could you give us a little bit of a background of how the levy thing works and how it's designed to get money from the community and so forth? Just
I'll do this
in one sentence.
In one sentence. Well, I'll do it in the simplest terms that I can. I think the first thing to talk about is, many people within Medina County and the city of Wadsworth and the Wadsworth Library Taxing District probably recently received their appraised value reports from Auditor Kovac.
Yeah, could we stop you just for a second? What's that word, appraised value? What does that mean?
Okay. So your house has a market value, and then you have an appraised value by the county auditor. That appraised value is usually, it's 35% of what the market value according to the county auditor is.
In other words, if a house is $100,000, it's $35,000 that's taxed only. You don't tax it on $100,000.
Exactly.
You tax it on the $35,000.
And you said you didn't understand this stuff.
You just told me. You just told me.
Okay.
Now I know.
So many people might have received that, and they might have seen a huge increase. Just because you saw a big increase in your taxable value of your house or your appraised value doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay additional taxes. So back in 1976, there was this thing called House Bill 920 that was passed that said, as values go up, your millage rate is reduced.
You mean I paid less tax? Or
So you're going to pay the same. So it's a multiplication formula. So the end product, the sum is the same. So as values go up, your millage rate's got to come down so you pay the same. So if values go up 10%, the millage rate's going to go down 10%, and you're going to pay the same. The library is going to receive the same. So the message here is, if you saw an increase in your appraised value from Auditor Kovac, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay additional taxes on any voted levy. And this being a voted levy, and as Daniel mentioned, it's a renewal. So the tax value isn't going to increase. That millage rate isn't going to increase. It's going to stay at 1 mil. It's probably actually collecting less than a mil now because of increased values. So the message here, to try and keep it simple, is don't worry about the values you got from the county auditor. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see an increase unless you saw a huge increase that was much greater than the average. So the average was 8.9. If you had a 20% increase in your value, you might pay a little bit more. If you had less than 9%, you might pay a little bit less. But on the average, on the aggregate, everybody's going to pay about the same.
That was 11 sentences, incidentally.
I'm sorry.
But that was worth it. It was worth it because a lot of people, and you said that I understood. I don't really understand fully what it is, but I think that you made it much more clear now.
Yeah, the message here is just because your values increase 20 or 10%, you're not going to pay additional taxes. And then I think the other clear message is it is a renewal. It's 1 mil. You're not going to see a tax increase. I think it's around $32 a year that someone's going to pay for that they're currently paying for this levy if they have a $100,000 home. And next year they're still going to pay $32 a year. It's not an increase in taxation.
That's wonderful.
And
there's no tax increase then.
That's probably the biggest message when it comes to this. And again, no matter where your values are, for every $100,000 you have, so if you're $200,000, just double it. If you're $150,000, take 1.5 of that. And you can figure out what this levy is costing you now, and when it's passed, what it will cost you in the future.
And it's going to be probably remain the same for just maybe pennies one way or the other. Is that
Right.
it? That's good. Dave, you came from New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Did you come directly from New Jersey to Wadsworth?
No, I was in Pittsburgh for a couple of years, so please don't hold that against me either.
No, we can't. We won't do that because you're a nice guy. But the reason I'm asking if you came directly to Wadsworth, let's say, for instance, when you did come to Wadsworth, how did you become associated with and acquainted with the library?
Well, the library is one of the first places my family and I stopped when we were actually even looking for houses in Wadsworth. The library was under refurbishment, expansion at that time, and we stopped in to see what was going on, and we were excited about the opportunities the library was going to hold for us. I remember as a kid, the library in my town was not real easy to get to, was kind of intimidating to be in, and didn't have a lot to offer. But this library, from the first day I went there, I knew that there was going to be a lot for me to experience there, and it's only grown, by leaps and bounds since then.
Do you realize that what you just got done saying is what I have heard time and time again? As you probably know, I was mayor of Wadsworth at one time. One of the things that we did many years ago when I was mayor was to send out a survey to find out how people really regarded the library, how they regarded the stores, how they regarded the administration from City Hall and so forth. It's just to find out a feeling from the community. Every single person who talked about the library said the exact same thing that you did. And the one thing that I'm really pleased to hear, because we take it for granted since we've been in Wadsworth, or I was born in Wadsworth, is that the easy access to the library and the warmth that you get from the library and the help that you get from the library, and in addition to that, the wealth of knowledge that you get from the library. Well, you can't put a dollar sign on that.
You're absolutely right. I mean, first of all, location is great. I mean, you can't drive through Wadsworth without seeing the library. The library is more than just books. People kind of get that in their mind that it's all books, but there is so much more at the library, from these programs that we've discussed to the extended resources through Search Ohio and the additional ways you can get materials. There's almost nothing that I can't get from, whether it's a book, a movie, a CD, through the library or through the outreach of the library. It's really pretty phenomenal when you think about it.
As a matter of fact, the reference library, tell me if I'm wrong, Daniel, the reference librarian can actually get almost information that exists throughout the world. Is that correct?
I would say so, yes. And we can get any book, really. If we don't own it, we not only can get it from Search Ohio, which is a collaboration of universities and public libraries in the state of Ohio. We can also either purchase it when we like to, as much as we can, buy materials that reflect the interest and needs of the public. We're spending this money on the collection. It's a significant investment, and we try as much as possible to just buy the items that people want when it's feasible. But beyond that, we have access to something called WorldCat, which is World Catalog, that would give us access to basically any library material.
Anything at all. Anything from anywhere in the world.
And in the world.
From Uberkistan. You can get information from Uberkistan.
We can, and we can find out what's in the libraries throughout the world and get interlibrary loans. And every once in a while you have someone who needs something obscure and rare, and you can sometimes get it from a foreign library.
In the center of little 20,000 population Wadsworth, Ohio, you can find out what's going on in any single part of the world by going to the library. You know, when your board meets all the time, how often do you meet the board?
The whole board meets monthly, and then we also have committee meetings that take place throughout the year.
Oh, really? They have committee meetings? I can't believe there are committee meetings. My heavens, of course, every organization has committee meetings. But now, when you meet and you look at the budget and you think to yourself, wow, we have so many dollars and so forth. How are we going to spend it? Does that come to your mind, or do you have to think, wow, that's all we have? How do you look at that dollar sign when it comes to the money part?
Well, we typically look at the dollar sign in terms of what is it that our community is asking for, what do they want from the library, and what's the best way that we can accomplish that goal with the money that we have available.
Now, I don't know what books cost for libraries. However, I've been in education all my life, and right now the most inexpensive first grade textbook, I'm first grade, I'm not talking about something much more elaborate, but I'm talking a first grade textbook which is about that thick, $51 for a book, $51. What about the library books? How much are they?
Well, it really varies based on the type of book and the vendor that we're buying it from. We buy a lot of books and try to keep the collection updated. A library is very much a living, breathing thing that can easily become outdated if you don't continue
Right,
to add to the
right.
collection based on what's being published and what's being updated.
Now, Dave, you go to the library frequently and you read books.
Yes, sir.
How current are the books at the library right now?
Tremendously current, and I think that they have gotten more and more current over the last several years with a dedicated effort to keep them as current as possible.
Thank Michelle, because
Yes.
she helped make the decision to buy a lot of books.
Absolutely.
Now, did you ever run out of money buying books?
Not since I've been on the board.
Then you're doing it very wisely.
Well, yeah, there's no
No.
running out of money because we only purchase what we can
What you can.
responsibly
So you don't run out of
afford.
money.
I think
That's right.
also to add there, Caesar, is to thank the community, because back in 2012 they passed this levy originally, which allowed us and allowed Daniel and Alan Nichols at that time to restore some of those services and bring the books back to current.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was never so overwhelmed as I was when we sat outside the library during, what is it, trick or treat? That's not the
Scare in the Square.
Scare in the Square. People after people after people after people. As a matter of fact, one of the persons, I think it was Campbell, who counted them, over 600 people came up to say, let me know what we can do to get this levy passed. The people in Wadsworth want the levy passed. I mean, Dave, you want the levy passed
No
because
question.
you're working night and day on this.
Absolutely.
And you want the levy passed and you want the levy passed, but we're working night and day. But the people of Wadsworth want this levy passed. As a matter of fact, we passed that levy by a fairly significant amount. Now, you talk to a mathematician who crunches numbers all the time like Daniel does here, and he says a 5% majority is not too terribly much. Let me tell you, 5% majority, I know for a fact, I ran for office, 5% majority is a lot,
Landslide.
a lot. So the people in Wadsworth want this as very well. One of the things that I think that we can probably do right now is to kind of go girly on all of us, to share your feelings. I think that the people are talking about sharing feelings and so forth. David, let's start with you, because you are probably one of the most romantic people that I know about the library. Tell us your feelings about the library. What is a good, warm feeling that you have about the library? And as a result of that, why you feel that the entire community should come behind this levy and to pass it.
Well, one of the memories I have about the library is when my son was 4 or 5 years old, we kind of bonded a little bit through the library. We would have in one particular evening each week where I would take him to the library for story time, and then just he and I would go out for dinner afterwards. So the combination of story time at the library and dinner with Dad, it was a bonding experience, and it's something I won't ever forget, neither will he. In fact, we talked about it this week as he and I were discussing my participation on this program. There are a lot of programs, a lot of opportunities that are available at the library, and people should take advantage of them. They're there for the community.
This is going to be horrible. It's going to sound bad, but I don't mean it's going to sound nearly so bad. But for a person who does nothing but crunch numbers, do you ever have any feelings?
You know what, Caesar, if I had $1 for every time I've been asked that question, I wouldn't have to work anymore. So, and my answer will probably support what you just said. So I guess as I was thinking about my answer as Dave was talking, I think why I'm so passionate about the library is because I'm passionate about education, I'm passionate about kids. And the library does a great job of offering value to the school district and to the kids of this community. I mean, the things that we partner with the library with from the school's perspective, for our teachers to get resources, for our kids to go there, the summer programming that we talked about for kids so they don't have that slide during the summer when they're not in school. Those are the things that bring me to the library, because I know that our partnership between the schools and the library is so valuable for the youth and the community of this.
Michelle, attorneys are usually not too touchy-feely type of people. What is your touchy-feely about the library?
Well, Wadsworth is the greatest community that you could possibly live in, and I feel that the library is the heart of our community. When you go there, you see the people of Wadsworth, you see the people that you know, your kids' classmates, their teachers. It's a great meeting place just for the community, and you can also go there for for anything that you need, whether it's looking for a recipe book or how to repair something in your house or just entertainment or just a place to go to keep the kids busy in the summer. It offers everything you could possibly need.
So you would consider it a jewel then, a jewel in the crown
Absolutely.
of the city of Wadsworth. Now, Daniel, of course, your job is to make sure that the library keeps on running, and you have a million little administrivial kinds of things that you have to be concerned about. But beyond that, do you have a strong feeling about books? Obviously, you have to have had a strong feeling about books, you wouldn't become a librarian. But, I mean, what is that internal feeling, that warm feeling that you have?
Excuse me, for me it's that personally the library was a transformative element in my own life. I didn't spend a lot of time there as a youth, but in my early 20s I became an avid reader and involved in my community. And as a volunteer with groups concerned with community gardening and the community's voice in civic journalism, everything that I was doing to reinvest in my community as a young adult kept on coming back to the library. And I really see the library as a special, almost sacred place that is responsible for reflecting the civic spirit of a place. And that's a sacred duty to guard that and to make it available to other people. And it begins with the kids. And now I'm witnessing that through my own children and watching their love of reading and more than the love of reading, but the experiencing the culture of reading and of community in a place where anybody from any age and background can come and be. And there's no other civic institution like that. And that's a heartwarming experience to be a part of sustaining that.
Would you be interested in mine?
Absolutely.
My touchy-feeling kind of thing. In 1814, when we first started this little city we call Wadsworth, there were no books. They actually went back 300 miles, 400 miles, 600 miles, and 900 miles to get books to bring them back here. Now today, within a matter of 2 seconds, we can come to the library and get them. So my touchy feeling is that we have come so far, and it is so easy to get the knowledge for all of the world that I want to say to the people of Wadsworth, and say it all together, please vote for the Wadsworth Public Library tax levy. Thank you very much, people, and let's hope that it brings the fruit that we're looking for from that good tree.